Solskjaer's all over the papers, by the way, because he was doing his press conference at Tallaght Stadium. And he basically let the cat out of the bag, which Andy Minton had told us on Off the Ball last year, which Solskjaer says, you can see on the back of the Irish Independent here, I was in conversation with the FAI about the Ireland job. He was asked pretty directly, did you speak to Ireland about potentially taking over from Stephen Kenny? And he was pretty straight up about it. He said that he had good conversations with the FAI. In the end, he didn't go there. He ended up as the Besiktas manager, Arthur. But I guess we now know at this stage the story that Heimer Hallgrimsson was always first choice and he was just sitting waiting for things to finish in Jamaica. Turns out to be a load of nonsense.
Yeah, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. It's an interesting crossroads. I don't know how... It's very hard to know how good of a manager Solskjaer is. But it would have been a lot more box office if he'd been there. Even I know he's not the most gregarious figure or anything, but like it's... Even when he's coming in today, it's a bit of a bigger edge to it than even, whatever else. But it is an interesting crossroads. It would have been, I don't know how successful he would have been. I don't think I'm pining after something here that's like, oh yeah, he would have got it and turned it all around. But definitely would have been a bit more showbiz.
Yeah, I think as well, I was just thinking back, I think even just having him around would have given an extra buzz around the place. I think for so many people that maybe aren't even following the sport, I think a lot more people kind of be like, oh, because again, the 90s, Manchester United, I think I would have been like, oh, I would have had his stickers in my Manchester United sticker album and stuff like that. So you're kind of going, yeah, I would have added that, I think, as you mentioned, just that kind of spark.
Big deal, he's everyone knows that name. Well, not everyone, you know what I mean? I'm not saying he's like Roy Keane, but everyone kind of, Solskjaer is very...
Champions League winning goal scorer.
Exactly, yeah. It would have been a very interesting kind of move. Although, again, one, I'm not sure would have worked. Yes. I'm not really...
So there's a strange kind of parallel here. So these are two managers who are kind of rebuilding their career after the dream job didn't exactly work out as they would have hoped. So in Solskjaer's case, he was quite open. Manchester United was the job he wanted. He left Norway to come in at a difficult time when Manchester United were a bit of a mess. Started off, I think I'm being fair in his legacy, reasonably well at the start. They win a PSG in the Champions League. They get to a Europa League final. And then towards the end, I think it got a bit tricky. And I think it definitely weighed on him quite heavily that Manchester United weren't doing as well as he would have hoped. And then similarly, Stephen Kenny had the honeymoon period when he came in as Republic of Ireland boss, and then it went downhill. And the last year particularly, I think, were very difficult times on Stephen Kenny as well. And here they are now, rebuilding themselves, trying to get into the Conference League. So... Solskjaer's a strange one because I think he is under pressure. He's spoken about this as well, Meghann, the fact that Besiktas finished fourth in the Turkish league last year. They've got high profile enough squad. People are very familiar with Tammy Abraham and with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who'll be playing for them tonight, former Chelsea and Arsenal players and Aston Villa player. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, maybe we find out who good Solskjaer is at a club like Besiktas as opposed to being a caretaker and then eventually a full manager at United.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Manchester United, it's not, like we all know, it's not been great the last few years. And I think he stepped into a very, very challenging role. I don't know, could anyone at the time have done much better than him? I think obviously it's an iconic role going back to Old Trafford, and I think it's probably what a lot of people want. We even see now at the transfer market, how many players are kind of want to play for Manchester United just because of the history, more so than the current state. So I think that's what goes with that. But yeah, it's interesting to see now how he'll get on. And as you mentioned, he has a great squad, and I think there's a great excitement around, again, just seeing the photographs of him in Tallaght as well. So does he have a point to prove? Possibly, but is this what we're going to see now? Will they be coming knocking on the door will FAI be coming back in a couple of years, being like, hey, about that job that you've now told everyone about that we offered, that we were in talks with? So you never know what could happen. Maybe he's going to test the waters when he's here. Maybe he's going to get a sample of what Dublin has to offer.
Hey, expensive hotels, I would say. Is
Temple Bar, I mean, they'll send him down there. Maybe he might do the tour of the Guinness factory, and what else we got? The Leprechaun Museum and the Splash Duck Tour, Viking Tour.
So I lived in Dublin for 10 or 11 years. I never did the Splash Tour. Were either of you ever inclined to go on it?
So I've done it in Boston. Okay. Because we're on our J1 and we're trying to do something
Viking Splash Tour in Boston.
Duck Tour is what it is in Boston. I think that's why I got confused. So we wanted to do it just because we want to prove to people that we did more than socialise. So we did it. But I actually, now that I'm here, I'm going, that's on my list, by the way. The Viking Tour is on the top of my list.
It's like, this afternoon I'm going on the Viking Splash Tour.
Yes. So before I go to the horse show, are you going to see me going, what do they say actually? What do you shout? Do they all shout at you? You're going,
shout abuse at people generally, yeah. Yeah,
so I can get a little hat as well, don't you, with the little... So they're outside, the Stephen's Green. So it's just around the corner. We could do like an OTB breakfast Viking tour.
I mean, we literally could. We won't, but we could. The thing as well is, I don't know. I don't know whether I would be excited about the idea if they go essentially into the little lake down by the canal and you get to like go around in the little boat. It's not that exciting. I would actually, I think, prefer to go on the boat down the Liffey as opposed to doing that.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually did take a boat once. Do you say up the Liffey, down the Liffey?
Depends on
Towards the
where
city?
you're going, yeah.
From Dunleary? Is that up?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
up the river, yeah.
Well,
The river goes to
Look,
the
my
sea.
geography
Down-
teacher could be listening from school, so I have to be careful here. Up, down the river. Well, I went up and down, so I had to go back out again. And it was actually to see Dublin from the waters is really nice. So there, would recommend.
Okay.
So you have a different take on Dublin than me. The horse show, up and down the Liffey on a boat, Dunleary, notions, I would say. Like the other thing about this, just Arthur, when I think about the timeline of it. So Mark Canham, who again is now gone, so he doesn't really care about what Solskjaer's revealed or not revealed. Do we now take it that Solskjaer was the other guy that they were talking to as opposed to Gus Poyet? Because we all kind of assumed that Poyet was the other candidate that they were talking to before.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we'll never know the full extent of what they were planning. I mean, there's a strange thing with Solskjaer where it's like it would have been very, like again, it's that type of thing. I could have told you about him, where it's like it's not exactly the most in-depth research required to find out him as a possible candidate. So I guess with that, like you never know the full extent of what they were doing, but it does just kind of. I don't think anyone ever believed that line regarding the
timeline.
The primacy of Hallgrimsson's candidacy for it. I don't think anyone ever was kind of sold by that. It's like, oh, he's always been, despite the fact it's taken months, and I told you in April that there'd be some news, and now there's no news, and so on and so forth. But it does no one any good to kind of think back on just that shit show, for use of a better word, throughout that whole period. It's an absolute disaster. But like I think as well, like even like maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be a good manager, maybe he'll have a good career. I don't necessarily think he will, but it just does show the kind of like sometimes the most obvious answer can be the right answer, but I'd say more often than not it's not. And it's like it happens all that time when like a manager gets sacked and it's like, oh, the best candidate just happened to be the assistant. That's handy that the person was in the room. So I think that's the kind of equivalent thing. It's like, oh, the former Man United manager that's been everywhere, that everyone knows. I think, yeah, well, why don't we give him a shout? Yeah. Fair play to him. I hope he gives him, but I think he's better off not having come.
Look, I think on the face of it, there's probably not too much of a difference either between Iceland's former joint manager, who has plenty of international experience, versus the former Manchester United manager, who had a bit of experience, don't get me wrong, at Molde and at Cardiff as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, Solskjaer's CV is reasonably short. Would it really have been a better appointment?
I think the only thing you could probably say that maybe there'd be a bigger advantage would be in convincing other players to come or stuff like that. You know, guys who are maybe teetering and thinking, oh, which way will I go? Like that he has the kind of pulling power that all of a sudden, hypothetically, all of a sudden, I'm sure he could get Roy Keane on the phone as well and go, come up to me and visit X player and we'll try, whatever. I don't know if the Roy Keane would do that, but you know what I mean? At least he has all those contacts.
Like that now.
But he has all those contacts, he has all that pull, he knows basically. I'm sure there's like only 1-2 degrees of separation between Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and everyone in the world of football. Yeah. So maybe that, but I mean that's as well, that's kind of not necessary. That's kind of realistic, but it's not necessarily, I suppose, the most it's not necessarily the way you'd want to be relying on kind of growth as a nation, just kind of having to go and get guys who aren't good enough to play for England.
It is an interesting point, though, because Damien Delaney said something similar when Stephen Kenny took over, which was he respected what Stephen Kenny had done at Dundalk and what he'd achieved within the Irish game, but he was saying for the vast majority of players that be coming into the Ireland squad, they wouldn't really know who Stephen Kenny is, while in Solskjaer's case, he's a well-known Premier League player, therefore he's going to be commanding a certain amount of respect.
Yeah, I think so. And as you mentioned there, like he would have had pulling power, and I think he just would have added that kind of edge that maybe, as I mentioned, that maybe people who don't follow the Irish team as diligently might actually be like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to, and I think it would have brought maybe more numbers and would have brought more fans and more, it surely could have only been good, but I suppose then it would have to depend on the results as well.
I got a sneaky feeling they weren't going to be great. The best part of an Ireland fan is the parts between the 90 minutes on the pitch in the last few years. But yeah, Ole is all over the place. Ole is what they've gone with on the back of the Daily Star.
There would have been a lot of that.
There is quite a few. The headline on Owen Cowser's piece on The Sun then similarly could have been Ole. We didn't quite get it. Isak's in there quite a bit. We're going to talk to Henry Winter about that a little bit as well. So Isak made to walk alone at Newcastle, so he's been training alone. Isak told to go it alone. Obviously a lot of that frozen out is what they've gone with. That's Craig Hope's piece on the back of the Daily Mail, which has been replicated in the Irish Daily Mail. We'll talk a bit about Grealish in a little bit as well, who's now being linked with Everton as he looks to revive his career as well. I don't know, Meghann. I mean, if you're a Liverpool supporter right now, you probably want to get Alexander Isak in, given one of the best Premier League strikers last season. He made it very clear he wants to go to the Premier League champions. I don't know if you've any concern, though, about a player who's willing to not go on pre-season tour and is willing to train alone to force a move away. Yeah,
and then they're saying as well that he wasn't invited to some barbecue.
Yeah, I heard family barbecue. Yeah,
and I was like, come on, that's a little bit now. But it's like, is it all mind games? Is it all a bit petty? And he's training alone. And yeah, I'm sure. Like, I always find it so bizarre, I guess, when people are like, yeah, no, I do want to go to this other team and I don't want to be here anymore. And then, yeah, as you said, he's training on his own. Even if he has to go now because there's no option, you can't just bring him back in and be like, okay, you've had your time now. Come on, join us. Can you?
It's if anyone meets that price.
Yeah.
So even with Paul Joyce on the other morning and kind of, I'd be amazed if they hold out, and they probably can hold out. There's no impetus on them to sell, really.
Talking about 150 million?
I cannot see Liverpool paying that. It's such an enormous amount of money. Like to have kind of dodged a bullet, and it's funny, like things like Saudi Arabia have done better for Liverpool than they have for Newcastle at the minute. Just that money, when you see Núñez now going off as well. And it's like you think, geez, they dodged a bullet there with the amount of money they paid, and they're getting a good whack of it back. That's to their credit, it's amazing. But to go out then and risk it again, nearly double that amount to spend 100, it'd be absolutely wild. Like, because it's not like you're getting, no disrespect, but it's not like you're getting like Mbappe or Haaland or someone. Like he's very good, but
he's a quality young striker though, in a world where there's not that many strikers available at a young age. They've already signed one of the hot young strikers in Ekitike, who that was a power play given that Newcastle wanted him. Probably they would have loved to have had him up front with Isak, but I'm sure they would have thought Sesko, Ekitike are the players they want to bring in. Looks like Sesko's now gone to Manchester United. Obviously Ekitike has gone to Liverpool, so it's left Newcastle in an absolute bind. I think that's a difficult one for Eddie Howe. It's like there's not necessarily someone in the market to replace him, and the closer they get to the season, the more I think they'd be inclined to dig their heels in and wait for 150.
Yeah, but then it's like the whole issue with not training with him, and then he didn't go because he, like I said, he had a minor, was a thigh injury or groin injury, and then went back to his former team to train. So it's all just a bit strange, and I just think it'll create like does that not damage an atmosphere in a dressing room when you're kind of there going, oh, your man doesn't want me here anyways. But you think you just kind of, I don't know, suck it up and just like get on with it. It's just a bit of a messy situation. You mentioned there about Sesko as well, and it's just there's so much kind of moving parts to all this, and you have to wonder what is going to happen with them now, because as I said, like I just thought like it was to me now not being invited to this family barbecue was like really petty. Like it's kind of going, you're not our friend. It's like you have a birthday party when you're kids and like one kid gets left out. It's like so yeah, as you mentioned though, the price for me is quite extortionate, but yeah, I don't know, it's all a bit, I don't know.
It's astronomical money, but on the other hand, this is a massive power play for Liverpool this summer, Arthur. You consider, so Harvey Elliott's probably going to go to Leipzig as well. So they're going to sell around 200 million and then bring in Wirtz for what was a record fee. This might need a record fee to get Isak.
Sure, yeah.
I know they were in a horrible situation because of Diogo Jota passing away. They needed to get strikers in. Trent had left, so they had to get Frimpong in as well. But like, they have not held back. There's not that long ago we were wondering if Liverpool were going to have much to spend after putting the big contracts in front of Salah and Van Dijk. They've just gone in heavy.
Big time. Yeah, and it seems you'd trust them kind of to get them all kind of more or less right. Like Wirtz seems like an amazing footballer. So you'd kind of, that's almost why you'd be like, geez, I don't know where the value is in paying 150 million for a guy. So that's kind of that would be my only thing for not, although like maybe they see it different, I'm sure they could, but they've been fairly ruthless and they've got a lot of it done early. So you'd suspect they're good and ready to go right from the get-go, because you would kind of trust they have a good track record, like compared to almost as difficult as these things are to sort of predict who'll do well and who don't. They have a fairly effective track record now of getting those big moves right.
I think as well they hold all the cards in this saga. It's like as time ticks down, Newcastle could dig their heels in, but do Newcastle want to end up in a situation where they've got an unhappy player who was giving tremendous output last year, but could well sulk if he's forced to stay at the club?
Yeah, look, and they have, for sure. Like for Newcastle, it's been an absolute disaster.
Nightmare window.
The whole thing's been a disaster. It's been just an embarrassment to be thinking that they're back in the Champions League, and like this is your kind of highest point of power. You're at your kind of peak power here that you're like, if we can get anyone, we should be able to get them now. And when you think like how, I don't exactly recall how their league form went the year they were in the Champions League, but it obviously wasn't good enough to get back in the Champions League. So if you consider that now, considering between the two times now there's 2 extra games in that group stage, that if your squad's gotten weaker, you're leaving yourself in a fierce, vulnerable position to get back there again, which is obviously
They had a lack of depth the last minute.
Yeah.
I remember the results were poor around the Champions League group stages, and it was only really in the second half of the year when they didn't have European football they actually recovered the form that season. Go on, Meghann, sorry.
No, I was saying, and Joe Willock's injured as well now, so it's kind of like he's out for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like,
They're looking at themselves in a very strange position.
well, look, who knows? We could be talking about them in a couple of months, being like, geez, remember that time we never know what could happen.
Potentially. I mean, maybe Isak turns around and says, hey, you know, actually, I love it here. But I think PSR has come to bite them a little bit here as well. 20 years ago, if the Saudi money had come in, Newcastle could splash and buy whoever they want. The reality is that they can't. And like even Manchester United, who finished 16th or 17th last year, Arthur, remind me? 17th?
Man United?
Yeah.
I think 15th.
The 15th?
15th, yeah.
Late rally with that win against Aston Villa on the last day.
The difference between 15th and 17th.
Yeah, but either way, they've got the money to sign Sesko. They've got the money to splash money on,
From somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jim Radcliffe let the tea lady and everyone else leave and stop the free lunches. But they've got the money which Newcastle don't have when it comes to that. And also, let's be deadly honest here, they've got the pull, Meghann, that Newcastle don't have.
But did Newcastle not offer 90 million for him, and then?
I think that one he just doesn't want to go there.
But they did Manchester United offered 75, and he's like, what?
I think when it allots up to the same amount with instalments and everything, more or less, it's pretty much equivalent. But he just was like, well, I'm going to Man United.
Yeah, because I was saying he just prefers it. So again, you see, that's the legacy thing. We're talking about Ole there coming to Ireland. It's the legacy of Manchester United and people just wanting to wear the jersey and just probably playing Old Trafford, New Trafford, whatever they can call it. So yeah, look, like, sure, if the offer's there, that works out well for him. But it's just interesting because for a team that have not been doing so well in recent times, and they still will, like, people still want to play for them. It's like they just have that X factor that I suppose everyone wants to be part of the rise again.
Yeah.
They also pay well, which doesn't.
They also pay extremely well, yeah.
They're there because they love it.
It's, as you always feel like that it's kind of, as it's been the case for 10 years, that it's always just within reach.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to a club that's really, truly fallen off. There's still that kind of blind optimism there.
I even saw Gary Neville say yesterday, Manchester United might be back.
Yeah, they won't be back. They won't be back.
They won't be, but we've
Where's
heard.
the lack of positivity here this morning? Come on.
It's not. It's just realistic. Like it's not.
Arthur's
like,
heard this a million times.
It's just
turned
not.
some corners now.
They'll be improved on last year because they'll have fewer games. They'll have 8 fewer games at the very least, and a lot more obviously as it went out. But they'll. Oh, there's still so many issues there. So many issues there.
Look, let's be honest, Meghann. We've heard this a million times before, where player X, who was brilliant elsewhere, signed for Manchester United, and they go into some kind of Space Jam style situation where their talents just disappear when they arrive at Old Trafford. So there's no guarantee. While a lot of these players look good on paper, and in the case of Mbueno and Cunha, they've got like Premier League experience as well. But there's no guarantee that they're going to step up and go from being really good Premier League players to being elite players at a really big club. It's a lot of pressure playing for Man United as well. Speaking of pressure, so it looks at this stage Declan Darcy is going to be the new Dublin manager. So the Irish Independent and the Herald are sister papers. So Frank Roach's piece is across both of the papers here, and he is saying that speculation has now intensified that Declan Darcy is the front runner to be the next Dublin senior football manager. The former Leitrim and Dublin player was part of the backroom team during the Jim Gavin era, where Dublin swept all before them. In a 7-year period, they won 6 All-Ireland titles between 13 and 19. He's not been involved since Gavin stepped down in 2019 when Desi Farrell took over. Of course, Farrell left this summer, and since 2022 he's been working in a performance coach role with Leinster Rugby. We had, Ger Brennan being very, very heavily linked the minute that Ger Brennan left, which happened God, within days really of Dublin going out of the championship, he left the Leinster champions, and I think a lot of us probably assumed that would be the case. Potentially in the backroom team, they're talking about Johnny Cooper being involved. Declan Darcy comes in as well. I don't know, Arthur. It seems the reports this a few weeks ago. This kind of was first reported, but it really feels like this is getting a lot of momentum behind it now.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? Like I guess kind of it's it doesn't strike me that Dublin will ever make a decision that's too left field. That's kind of like, yeah, that probably makes sense. That's probably. So it's hard to get too kind of worked up. It'll be interesting to see what the make of the backroom team is. Because there are rumours like with Cluxton and Johnny Cooper and whoever else that it's like, well, that'd be pretty interesting to see. But it's so funny because I suppose there's a little bit of it with Kylie as well, that like those, it's very rare you have a team that wins so much that the manager seems that they just keep such a low profile. And that sort of legacy of that Dublin team, like Jim Gavin's never been so talked about as he has been in the last year.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, we have no real. What's the defining Jim Gavin moment of the 5 in a row for him, or the 6 All Irelands? Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what he was always so kind of true to his own outlook of keeping so below the kind of line of interest. He never did anything in the best sense possible interesting or kind of gripping, like, or even the sort of Jack O'Connor thing where he's coming out and there's kind of always lines and. You know, we're not going to go in there. We're not going to be Cork. We're not going to do a Cork.
Do a Cork at half time. I attended many a Jim Gavin press conference during their dominant period. And what Jim became an expert at, Meghann, was that you'd go in and you'd ask him about the opposition and he would reel off 8 or 9 players in the opposition and would always tell you, even at a point when Dublin were, murdering most teams, he would basically say, they're a dangerous opponent. Always the most respectful, where there would never be a standout line from it, in the cleverest way possible, where a manager could go in, do his 15 or 20 minutes, usually early in the morning to ensure the journalists had to go at a crazy time to try and get any line anyway, but you never got one. Like, I've actually probably heard more from Jim Gavin in the last year with the Football Review Committee than I remember his entire tenure as Dublin manager. And I mean that in the best possible way. A manager who did not put any attention onto them whatsoever. Yeah,
it's kind of funny. I suppose with the GA, you're kind of like, it's almost like I just feel like there's always like this protective blanket or something. It's like, God forbid they let anything slip or don't say anything and be careful. And it's always this kind of like, oh God. Whereas, we're talking about the football there and it's like, oh, they're not doing this and they're training over here and they're being spotted by people. Whereas when it comes to the GA, it's such a closed community in some senses that you kind of never really know what's going on in camp. Like, everything's always rumours, everything's always hearsay, everything's always like he was probably spotted out for a cup of coffee with someone and it's probably like, is this how is this where the rumour mill starts?
Yeah, it's really hard to know, because it's interesting with Dublin, that legacy, that whole team, that it's like the way they shut everything down. And there's always, it's a really, I'm fascinated from the Gavin point of view. And I know we're talking about Declan Darcy here, but it's interesting that if he's of the same ilk, you could suspect something similar might kind of be about to start. But just that kind of the tremendous lack of ego that's required to kind of go like, I'm basically going to make myself, and maybe you're kind of a bit of reverse psychology, but I'm basically going to remove myself so much from the discussion here that nobody even thinks about me or talks about. People still talk about him because of the team, but nobody talks about him.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of suspects what he does, and everyone kind of has maybe an idea of the kind of manager he was and why it all worked so well. But like, there's no, like, even Cody, who did the similar sort of thing, he still sort of betrayed a level of emotion that you knew exactly who he was, or as much as we possibly can. But with Gavin, it's just like, it's a blank page, and it's interesting because you see then those guys who come out from the team afterwards and they're just like these amazing colourful characters, but Dublin has just that way of kind of keeping it so tight during it. And it's just so, and I don't know, maybe that's their recipe for success, whereas other counties I think flourish with a little bit of kind of flair or character in that sense.
Bit of colour as well. Like, do you find like over the years, like, do you bump into an inter-county player, like at a coffee shop, or maybe off-season you might meet them on a night out in your local and you'd be like, hey, how are you getting on? They're like, grand. And you're like, oh no, I'm not here in a work capacity. I have no microphone on me. I'm literally just asking to be sound. I don't care.
I understand exactly why this happens. So the issue is that you buy into a culture within a panel, and it's you don't want to let anyone else down. So therefore, whether it be a media day, whether it be talking to people in the public, whatever it might be, you got to stay on top and you got to stay on message. And therefore, you're protecting the wider group. And within the GA, that has seeped in way more than other sports as well.
Yeah, it's. I just find it always interesting because it's like, and I always find, like, I'm sure, like, you know yourselves, when you do interview someone and you do get a bit of colour, that's always the piece that takes off, because everyone is interested to know at home, you know, the I guess the personality type more so of the player, because we know what they could do on the field because we watch them and it's, you know, you see it, it's evident. But then it's like, I think for not even just young fans, for all fans, you kind of, little things like what music they listen to. Some people are kind of going, you know, it's always that getting that little bit of the personal touch, I find, is what I suppose everyone wants. But maybe that's what keeps the intrigue there, because
there's only so many times I can hear a player say that they listen to Kingfisher. It's been a long summer.
Favourite film? Shawshank Redemption.
Or The Godfather.
Braveheart.
Yeah, that's really interesting concept, though. The idea of not letting anyone else down.
Yeah.
Or letting the walls in. That's really...
So Tommy Welch, one of the most interesting retirement players I've ever spoken to. He's like, his stories are great and he's tremendous fun. And he said that he kind of felt that.
Yeah.
It was like anyone who was put forward, even about Cody there, who was put forward for media. Like Paul Murphy's talked to me a good few times about this as well, where he was put up and it was, do not give any stupid lines, do not give anything away. Try and keep it as quiet as you possibly can.
So then they handpick who they send forward because they know probably who's the loose lips.
Yes. So
it's very selective about, okay, you're good to talk. But I find sometimes then they put forward, as you said, the really, nearly almost the quieter ones that give you the one word answer and you're like, oh, I'm here to do a job as well. Just give me something.
Well, it's always great when one slips through the net.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think I remember Nathan talking about it. This must have been back in 2012-13 that he it must have been he did a Limerick game and Dowling was about 20. Right. I remember the way he burst on the scene.
Yeah.
And he had that great year. Certainly 12 anyway, but he came through and he was I don't know what he was talking afterwards, and I think the issue was in that way that it was in Limerick, where like there was kind of negative things being written in the leader about like by thing, and it's like it was this big thing, and he came back at a big game and just went off on a big kind of tirade about such and such, and Nathan, look, this guy's only 20 at the time, and Nathan there saying it's just like, oh, just come back to this guy when he's retired. It's like, this guy's got it, he just gets it. But it's funny, like the thing increasingly then with time, like as that team goes on, Dowling almost seems like an outlier, and it's like just seems like as brilliant as he was in 18 as well, and then obviously gone after 19, but just seemed like from a different generation, even though he's like the same age as whatever as Declan Hannon, like who just seemed to, it's different strokes. You just have so few of those characters.
There's also some players who will just speak freely and don't care. So I think of one here, it was like Shane O'Donnell, who like nobody tells Shane O'Donnell what not to talk about. Like he will literally come out and say what's on his mind. He will speak freely and he will speak as an individual. Seamus Flanagan is also one that jumps to mind. Again, it's no surprise these guys have been doing quite a bit of media even while they're still active players, because again, they feel like they've got something to say and they have no problem with, you know, taking responsibility for what they say as well. But I can totally understand why other members of the panel would just shy away slightly from it. Yeah,
but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. You're talking about players who are actually now on our TV screens and match day. Seamus Flanagan, current, like playing with Limerick. So it's like, I think it's clever on their part because they're setting themselves up for post-retirement, because if you do it right, you could have a pretty long career in media. And I think, you know, it's good for them in that sense. I think that it's like you have to kind of, as much as you say, like you're saying, like they have to think about the team, I think sometimes you do have to think about yourself in this as well. What do I want? Because, you know, your career could be cut short, or, you know, retirement, or get knocked out early, and it's like, right, where do I see myself next? And if there's like money to be made on camera, on social media, like you see a lot of them now doing even like content creation, which I know people go, you think that word, you almost automatically think influencers. But, you know, a lot of them are getting good campaigns with big brands to show off whatever latest car or TV or whatever is going on. And, you know, there's money to be made there. So I'm like, go for it.
Hey, don't worry. Mick O'Dwyer was a content creator back in the 1980s when he was making lads sit in their tidy whities on a washing machine to make sure they got enough money for a team holiday. So, yeah, it's just different. It's just a different medium now.
Yeah, it is. And it is. But it's interesting to see how it is changing again because of social media, because we're getting access into some of their lives more so because of it. But
is that not all very carefully curated though?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because see, they work with a lot of, like, I work with some brands sometimes, and they're very like, yeah, just do whatever you want. Whereas you work with some other brands, and they're like, right, you need to send me all the content first, then I need to okay it. When I okay it, then or else I'll tell you what changes I want. So yeah, I suppose a lot of theirs is probably more so curated, and probably has to be sent to be approved first. So I guess that goes into it as well. But yeah, I think it's like, as I said, I think there's life to be made after retirement if you want it. Like, obviously, some of them are happy just to retire and I think the Simpsons, disappear back into the bushes and not like really be kind of seen again. But then I just think, what, if there's money to be made, go for it.
I think most athletes are intelligent and articulate, and I think they can be trusted to talk. I think the vast majority are really good fun as well, but they don't get to express that. I had a current inter-county goalkeeper send me a very abusive voice message for James Scully last night, who was complaining that one of the saves that he made this year was not properly rated by Scully, and asked whether Scully had actually made any decent saves himself in the last decade.
Oh, so did you send it to Scully?
Yeah, of course.
This is a current hurling goalkeeper.
Yeah, current inter-county goalkeeper who made
elite level.
Made a very good save from
that levels it down.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago against Ireland in the All-Ireland quarter-final.
All right.
Yeah. It's obviously Dublin goalkeeper Sean Brennan, who you were going to hear more from in the next while. I believe, and again, I don't think I'm giving too much away here, he made an attempt in the Pittsburgh Steelers stadium yesterday to score a point from the end line to the other end.
I have to say.
So the NFL pitch is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
I think he tried to score a point from there. Again, I've not seen the video yet, so whether he's made it or not, I don't know.
I'm actually loving this content online because when it first came up, I was like, wait, where's that? I was like, at the stadium going, I don't recognise that. Very interested to see what's going on.
Cian Fahey went on a jolly to America, but I'm sure did lots of really good work. They went to a baseball game the other night as well. So they got the full experience of, actually 9 innings is quite long and it's a lot of sitting around watching baseball.
Yeah.
But he got to know Sean, he got to know Brian Howard was over there as well as part of the trip. So he missed his flight back. So I'm hoping to get an update from Cian at some point.
I hate when that happens. I hate when I miss a flight home. I actually went to a Red Sox game actually on my J1. And I remember because everyone's like, it's a long day. And I was like, okay, yeah, grand. And then you get there, I was like, oh my God, this is such a long day. We just kept moving around the stadium because we're like, we can't stay sitting here for that long. It was on forever.
So obviously that was Fenway. Was this mid-season when it was one of the regular unimportant 82 matches that they played before the postseason?
What's my J1 was in
midsummer.
Yeah.
Probably mid-season. See, I think when it gets to the playoffs, it's different and it has a lot more intensity to it. Problem is when you go to one of those midday games when they're playing against a team who might have a negative record, you're just kind of there for the day.
I can't even remember who they played. Isn't that awful? I was my J1 now, so
Today is Meghann in Boston as opposed to the papers. We're finding out about the Duck Tour. So was the Duck Tour baseball better?
Do you know what? I'd say the Duck Tour. But like over there, that's what I was saying. Do you know what I was asking? The Viking splash. It's like what you say because when you're in the Duck Tour, you have to quack.
Bloody hell. I presume if you don't take part in it, you are miserable and you will be mocked by the person who's doing the tour.
I don't know if you can see that I'm quite a positive person.
Incredibly. At this hour of the morning.
I'm very easily entertained as well. It's not hard to keep me entertained.
But 9 innings of baseball does not do it for you.
No. I have a short attention span.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. The lads are going to come in and we'll talk about the Europa League and Conference League in a second. What are the top 4 things to do in Boston based on Megann's J1 experience?
Oh, God.
Arthur, give me a top 3.
I've never been to Boston. I don't know.
Neither have I. I'm actually planning a trip here.
Oh, do you know what actually? Sorry. I worked in Tia's on the waterfront, which was a lobster bar on the waterfront. And I was there when the Bruins won Stanley Cup.
Oh, wow.
And that's where they come the morning after. That's the tradition. They come to Tia's the morning after.
Did you serve them?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then they shave all their beards off that morning, isn't it? Yeah. So they let all their beards grow.
Yeah.
And then I just remember I was like, all the staff, the American staff, obviously the locals, were absolutely losing their lives. And then the manager's like, okay, everyone needs to stay calm. Just stay calm. Don't be don't be annoying them. And they come across the green with the old-fashioned buggy with the Stanley Cup in it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, that's really exciting. And everyone's like, this is like such a big deal. And all I just remember from that night was my manager was like, you straight back to your accommodation. And I was like, what? And she was like, do not stay in Boston, the city tonight. And I was like, for the celebration, she goes, the place is going to go crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, so I literally went back to my accommodation. But the team were there for the whole morning.
Did you get to hold the Stanley Cup? It's a hell of an impressive trophy.
Yeah, we were all there getting to kind of go over to it, but we weren't allowed to be too annoying of the players and stuff. So we'd kind of be really subtle about it. But yeah, that was the whole team. So I was actually proud about that. That was there. Yeah, that was fun.
Were you here when the NFL trophy came?
No.
Oh, it was in this very studio. There's 2 very burly security men with the trophy. And you know, sometimes they'll say to you, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Remember when the claret jug came in the tour around here? It was like, don't touch it. But a few people went over and touched it and it was like, no big deal. Yeah. The 2 guys were like, no, you do not touch this. Because there is only 1 trophy.
Oh,
they don't cut them for the team and they get to keep them. They literally, years over, they hand it back.
Okay, because that happened with the Melbourne Gold Cup came to Scully races last year and they had it there and I was like, oh, can I get a video with it? Or because I was, for social media. And then they were like, okay, but you have to put on the white gloves. So you have to put on the gloves and you aren't allowed to touch it unless you have the white gloves on. But I was wearing a white outfit, so it looked like it was part of my outfit.
Oh, planning ahead. Didn't even know. Anything else you can recommend in Boston before we finish this up?
What else did I do in Boston? I didn't do a lot. So Fenway was definitely one I did. And then, where else? Oh my God, this is really terrible. I didn't really do much. I worked in Abercrombie.
Right.
Which was an experience.
Did you get free clothes?
No, you had to pay for them, we got a discount. And you had to wear, they told you what you had to buy because you had to wear a certain uniform.
And they didn't fund that?
They gave you a discount.
Oh, sketchy.
What else? Oh, there's 4th of July. I was there for 4th of July. I actually went out to a beach in the 4th of July that's outside Boston. And it's where all the basically everyone, Boston's full of Irish, but they were all like the next generation Irish. So 4th of July, I was going up and down the beach. And then because I was the one with the real Irish accent, I was being brought around from group to group to group. And everyone was showing me their Irish tattoos. Everyone had shamrocks and Irish flags and dodgy Oscoilia tattoos and everything. So
sounds like Shane Allen.
It was just really interesting because I was like, I was like, oh my God, you're really Irish. And I was like, yeah, I am. So that was, where was that beach? That was way off out in, I think it's called Marshfield.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I was like, look, there was actually cool things to do in Boston, bar than just being a J1 student and doing the J1 usuals.
Did you tip out to Harvard?
I did. I went to Harvard as well. Very cool. I was living near so in Boston, all the universities are on kind of the one area, all the MTU, the whole lot of them. So yeah, we kind of visited all of them just to kind of walk around and say you're in Harvard, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Meghann, summer in Boston, summed up for you, everybody. OTB Breakfast is with thanks to UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate, or bend the way they used to, you can choose UPMC to help get you back into action. All right, time for the cash machine.